Boom! What's up, fam? Anthony Dream Johnson here today, president of the fucking Manosphere, founder of 21 Studios, the 21 Convention, the 22 Convention, co-founder of the Red Man Group, founder of 21 University, and internet badass today, we'll call myself, for trolling feminists and many other people who don't like us for being men. Now, in today's episode 121 of the Red Man Group, I'll be joined by the one and only Jay Vincent. He's a new speaker to the 21 Convention. He spoke for his first time just a few weeks ago at 21 Summit, as well as the 22 Convention for women. He's been a personal trainer for many years and actually started his business as an entrepreneur and as a personal trainer years ago. I think about 6 years ago. We'll hear from him in just a second. And he was actually heavily inspired by 21 Convention speeches related to high-intensity training, lifting weights, working out, and being healthy. So we're going to hear all about that from Jay Vincent himself. So without further ado, Jay, welcome to the show.
What's up? Glad to be here.
Yeah, man. Appreciate your time coming on. It's a different start time today, but I think it's going to go pretty well.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself. We saw you last week on the show, but it was pretty brief, and that was more of an overview of the conventions that we all spoke at, me, you, and 20 other guys. But tell the Red Man Group audience, what your kind of basic backstory is and what you're about and what you believe with regard to fitness and health.
The backstory is pretty interesting, actually. About 22 years old, and I wanted to become a fitness model. I always had good genetic. I was encouraged. I mean, people don't know anything about fitness modeling, but they'd say, "Oh, you look like a mannequin. You should do." I was like, "All right." And I ended up breaking up with one of my girls. I was pissed, so I wanted to become a fitness model to make her jealous, which is pretty fun. Didn't work. So I started looking for all. I started to look for science behind physiology because again, I learned pain pretty much from what just told me in the past. And I had been training I was 22. I'd been training for probably 6 or 7 years at that point. And I was stuck at about 100, 190. It looked good, but when I applied to a modeling agency, he said, you look great, but you're bigger. So I'm like, how the hell am I bigger? I've been training my whole life. And best I could do was 90 pounds. So I started researching, Googling, and I just stumbled across a talk by Dr. Doug McGuff, and I just watched start to finish, and it just blew my mind, and the principles just made sense. And I just started implementing the principles in about 4 to 5 months. I put on about 10, 15 pounds of muscle. The agency took me on. They put for a ton of work for Under Armour, Muscle Tech sponsored a couple of years, Amazon.com, Men's Health, tons of different stuff. The only change I really was implementing training principles, training hard, less frequently, less volume, and it allowed me to actually recover, respond to the training, help me unlock my genetic potential, which now I'm around 5 pounds. Haven't really gained much since then. Kind of hit the genetic ceiling. I kind of attribute all of it. Yeah.
Sorry, I got to interrupt you, but there's some sort of echoing going on that I've never seen before, and I think we need to reschedule the show. I can't figure this out. It's not only your audio repeating; the guys are saying it too, but your video is like looping somehow every couple of seconds.
Is it really?
Yeah, I mean, an echo sometimes we can figure out, but it looks like your video is somehow doing it too, which I've never seen with this software.
I wonder if maybe my internet is bad or something.
Nah, like you're clear actually. Everything's fine. Like we talked before the show, and it wasn't this bad. But the more we go, it's like getting worse. I don't know what it is. Yeah, we can just reschedule for another time. We'll start it all over. We'll start a fresh episode.
Damn. Well, I don't know. What would I need to change?
I honestly don't know because I've seen a lot of issues with StreamYard and live streaming, but I don't know, to be honest. Like headphones could help, but it's not just audio. It looks like video too. It'll like loop back. I mean, it could be a lot of things we could go into.
Do it on.
To be honest,
I could put like a cell phone in it. Could I?
You could try popping in off a cell phone. Actually, that's a good idea. If you can pop in off your cell phone, especially if you're on Wi-Fi, the speed should be fine. And then headphones on your phone might do that. Let's do that. Good idea.
Okay.
I'll pull you up.
Hold on, I'll put my dog outside because he's gonna walk around and drive me fucking crazy.
Okay. Commercial break.
Sure you can nail it, can't you?
Yeah, we can hear him. Yeah, walking around. Yeah.
Okay.
Commercial break, ma'am. Technical difficulties. Yeah, I've never seen this problem before with we call it StreamYard is what we use for this stuff for your Redman group and live streaming. Yeah, some of those videos looping back, and that's like super weird for live streaming. Plus the audio, like you guys are hearing. So, 1 second, guys. In other news, I appreciate you guys tuning in live to this unusual time for the Redman group on Saturday, starting at about 2:30. So new stuff. Let's see what Jay does here. Actually, we'll pull back in a minute, and I'll edit this later. Hey, Jay.
Is that better? Oh, I can't.
Yeah, way better. No more echo.
I cannot tilt it. Can I tilt it sideways though? Let's see. Maybe it'll get.
That'll be. Yeah, that works actually too.
Cool.
Yeah, cool.
All right, we'll go with that. All right.
I'm actually gonna do another intro for the show because then I can do an easier cut to clean this up on YouTube.
Yeah.
Pretend that we're still live, but we're gonna pretend we're starting over.
Okay.
So, uno momento, and appreciate you guys watching live, hanging out here. All right, what up, fam? Anthony Dream Johnson here today, founder of 21 Studios, the 21 Convention, the 22 Convention, CEO and co-founder of the Redman Group. Here with episode 121 of the Redman Group on high-intensity training with special guest and new speaker to the 21 Studios family of events, including the 21 Convention for men and the 22 Convention for women, Jay Vincent. Now, it was actually kind of a restart with technical difficulties a few minutes ago. We have now fixed them 100% with our super advanced technology team here at 21 Studios and Jay up in New York. So without further ado, please let me welcome back to the show, because he was also on last week on episode 120, Mr. Jay Vincent, high-intensity training expert and entrepreneur and small business owner. Jay, welcome to the show.
What's up, Anthony? Thanks for having me again.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you coming on, kind of your third time. I know you were at the event too, actually, on the Redman Group, so that was your first time being on Redman.
Mm-hmm.
You've been on a bunch of times now, we'll call it.
Yeah, I'm a regular.
Yeah, man. So I appreciate your time coming on today. And I want to talk all about high-intensity training, strength training, health and fitness, because you have some ideas that a lot of audience are not familiar with that they should be. If they're familiar, longtime fans of 21 Studios, they would know about it. High-intensity training, Body by Science and all that. But a lot of the guys are newer. I mean, the channel's been around for a long time. These videos, a lot of them are many years old now. So I want to hear about your kind of backstory, your entry into being a small business owner, being a personal trainer, and how that all started for you, and what your beliefs are with regard to health and fitness that are not normal or not popular, let's say.
Yeah, I would say almost all of my beliefs are not popular, but they work. I got into high intensity training. I was was on a journey to become a fitness model. It's just something I wanted to do at the time. And, I'd been training for, I would say about 7 years at that point. And the best I could do was about 190 pounds. And so I applied to this fitness modeling agency in New York City, and he said, you look great, but you got to get bigger. I was like, holy shit, what am I going to do? Like, I've been training almost my whole life. This is the best I could do. So I started doing research like we all do. I scoured the bodybuilding.com forums. It was just nothing but trash, and YouTube. And something led me to a presentation by Dr. Doug McGuff. I believe it was in 2010. He just stood up there, explained high-intensity training or exercise physiology.
Got it actually right here. It's 9 years ago now. 631,000 views. Fuck yeah.
Oh yeah. We gotta get that back up there, hopefully with my videos. But I watched that, and it's just the way he explained it, just light bulb went off, made perfect sense. He explained biochemistry and fat loss, and I watched it start to finish, and it was kind of an obsession from there. That led me to Drew Bay's videos, and I started doing more research on the principles, applying the principles to my training. And within about 4 months, I put on about 10 to 15 pounds. And it was like, boom, like that. I started cutting back my workouts from 6 days a week, spending about an hour, sometimes hour and a half, the typical bro split, cut it back to 3 days a week at that time. Just full body workouts 3 days a week, cut it back further. And it seemed to be tremendous in terms of providing results, and it ended up saving me a hell of a lot of time. So helped me get into the agency, booked a bunch of work with Muscle Tech. I was a sponsored athlete for a couple of years, Under Armour, Amazon.com, Men's Health. Yeah. And I owe it all to finding the, research-based exercise principles helping me get there. Otherwise I would have been spinning my wheels probably until now.
And the book you mentioned is actually Body by Science. And this is actually my, this is the copy from the speech that,
wow.
So yeah, it's like my signed copy. He signed it on video at the speech. If you guys can see that. There you go.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Too, yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, it really changed my life, man. Like, I'll never forget it.
Yeah, me too. I mean, getting into the whole entrepreneurial part, my body, I was always in great shape, but my body like morphed, and people started asking me, what are you doing? What are you doing? And they started explaining these principles to them. And then they started to ask me to take them through workouts and train them. And I was like, well, shit, this might be a good business model. So I was kind of playing with the idea of just, instructing this, and then realized that there are studios across the country that do instruct this. And that led me to open my own. And ever since then, it's opened a door for me for a tremendous business model, tons of other opportunities. And, I get to do what I choose for a living rather than what I have to do for a living, and make a tremendous living doing it. And, man, if I hadn't saw that video, who the hell knows where I would be by now. So it was definitely altered my path, definitely changed the direction of my path for sure.
That's amazing, man. I mean, to see a single speech, I've heard a little bit of stuff like this over the years, but it's pretty rare. I mean, you saw basically a couple speeches from 21, and specific to who they were. Tim McGuff is a very powerful speaker with very powerful ideas.
Mm-hmm.
So in that sense, it's not that surprising, but I think it's heroic. I mean, it's really, you alter the course of your life by watching something and applying it, and having the rationality to appreciate it and to actually follow through with it, and then take some more risky things too, being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of entrepreneurs fail. You've been in business now for like 6 years.
Yep.
I think 80% of them fail by that point. So you're kicking ass, man.
Yeah. And it's, it comes down to, I mean, I'm not selling snake oil. I'm selling something that works, and it's got research behind it. And even if you don't believe the research, or you look at me or you don't believe me, if you train with me for 6 weeks, you are going to be probably in the best shape you've been in ever. Strongest, the best cardiovascular fitness, and the proof is in the pudding. So the thing about this business model is the clients stay with you. They very seldom drop out. So I've been training some people for 6 years every single week. That's why it's a good sustainable business model too, because not only is it good for, revenue and the numbers, but, it's good for, you're helping people. So there's a sense of fulfillment with that too. So it's much easier to go to work every day. It just, it covers all aspects of having a fulfilling career. It's awesome.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I could say too that when I found Body by Science in particular, this book, I mean, there's a lot of other hit books I have even behind me. from Ken Hutchins, his original Super Slow Manual, The Renaissance of Exercise. These are hard to find books, unfortunately. Some of them are easier to find, like Body by Science, of course. But Body by Science I found it in 2009, right after it came out. And I can say it's one of the only books in my life I opened it in Barnes & Noble, and I literally didn't put it down until they closed at like 8, 9 o'clock or whatever. And I was almost done. I basically read everything but the last chapter in the bookstore the day I found it. I was blown away by it because I was a guy who was overtraining just massively, like way too much cardio bullshit. I was running half marathons on a weekly basis, plus teaching jump rope at my university, mostly to women, but so everyone would kind of come out. And these were, long term. Actually, I think jump rope is interesting from a biomechanics standpoint. Bill Day Simone has shown it to be pretty useful for at least the motion for training your calves. But it's just a ridiculous amount of training I did. And I found that and McGuff made a post about it when I posted a before and after shot. I don't have the physique you do. Like, you have incredible genetics, I think, as well as a good brain to match it. But I found Body by Science, and I went from training 7 days a week religiously, like an absolute zealot for years, every day, right? And half marathons and all this stuff. I cut it down to 1 day a week, and over the following 6 months, I gained like 8 pounds of muscle. I was like, holy shit, this is just, never mind what I was doing, like the specifics of it, just following a basic Body by Science protocol that you can read in the book, right? The fact that I gained anything from such a massive reduction in volume was like stunning.
The fact that you gained anything, period, because you were probably training 7 days a week for months, possibly years, and seeing nothing from it, and just continuing to chip away at it, hoping that some magic supplement's going to come out, and that's what you were missing. That's what a lot of people look at it as. It's like, oh, well, what do you eat? Because that must be why I'm not gaining. Never mind my stupid workout. It's probably that I am not eating what you're eating or taking whatever bullshit supplement. Yeah, it's funny in this industry how many people do the exact same thing for years, see nothing, and continue to do it. It's absolutely fucking mindless to me. And that's why, I actually did some research. I was like, all right, well, I'm doing something wrong. And, you got to be able to think critically to adopt these principles and use them, because it's going to be counterintuitive to everything you've been indoctrinated towards since the get-go. The more is better.
I came from like a cardio, like magic. I call it magic cardio perspective now, and that's the average person kind of has that, especially if they're gym oriented. Let's call them male or female. They think cardio is like this magical fucking potion, and you can't see the results maybe, but you're supposed to have them because you've done or maybe a ridiculous amount of training, like I was doing. I would jump rope for an hour straight. I remember one time I ran. I don't know if it was before or after, but in the same day I ran a half marathon. And then I took like a small break, I think, and I went and had to teach a jump rope class for an hour straight. I mean, it was, a brutal day, which has its own kind of reward to it, but it's very unhealthy. And physically, it's fucking almost useless.
And that's like the Rocky Balboa syndrome, too. It's like if you think that you're beating your ass into the ground, then there's some sort of valor associated with that. Like, I'm beating my ass in the ground. I'm doing better. I'm doing more work than everyone. I'm going to get the best physique. But scientifically, it's just not how it works. Did you start to feel like really worn down? And I noticed I'd get up in the morning after sleeping 10 hours and I'd feel like I was hit by a truck. Yep. And I thought I had sleep apnea. So I went to the doctor and they did tests and I was like, no, you're fine. Yeah. And then I saw the video. I'm like, oh shit, I'm overtraining. Duh. Mm-hmm.
But no one ever tells you that. Like the average gym goer, male or female, they never, ever, ever get told they're overtraining. They always think they're not. It's like this endless cycle of like not doing enough. You brought up a good point too, because it relates to the manosphere. In the manosphere, we talk about just in terms of dating relationships. These guys do the same thing for years that doesn't work. They get, put in the friend zone, and it never goes anywhere with a ridiculous amount of women. They'll do this for 5-10 years straight, scratching their heads like, why doesn't this work? Like, well, maybe it'll work next time. It's the same thing with fitness and working out. It's like they do this useless shit that doesn't do anything. It's not based on science or really anything other than kind of this fake common sense that people have about working out,
Yeah, part of it is, I think we're kind of conditioned to lack any sort of ability to think critically. I think that's part of it. And also marketing. So you got these Instagram people who, they're putting content. People don't realize that they're simply putting content up for views to sell you shit. They don't necessarily actually do those workouts when they put them on. Yeah. And it's also that people think that your body is changing as you are training. So if you're doing a curl, it's burning the fat off and building the muscle as you're curling. If that were the case, physiologically, it would make more sense to do it more. But why wouldn't you just do it for 3 weeks straight and not put the weight down? If that's
saying though, hang on, the average person believes that when they're lifting a bicep curl or whatever they're doing, a bench press or a squat, they actually believe that they're doing something in the moment that is building it. But you're saying that's completely fucking wrong.
No, the exercise itself doesn't produce anything directly. Besides, it can produce an injury if you do it like an idiot. Yeah. Exercise is merely a stimulus. That's what people need to understand. It tells your body to do something. So basically, the stimulus is aggressive and deep muscular fatigue. This is viewed by the body as a threat to its survival, a threat to its ability to move. If your body cannot move, if your muscles are so fatigued and so weakened that your body cannot move, it cannot survive. It cannot obtain food. It cannot prevent itself from becoming food. It cannot reproduce. Movement is crucial to survival. So when you place a huge demand on your body's ability to move by weakening and fatiguing its muscles, it sends a very strong signal to the body to adapt, and adapt in the way of improving physical capacity. That's going to be muscular strength, some muscular size, depending on your genetics. With the improvement in strength and size, the systems which support the muscle have to improve as well, or else it would make no sense. So your cardiovascular system, which supports the muscle, has to improve and become more efficient. The bones will become stronger. Connective tissue will become stronger. It's all a system. But the initial stimulus is aggressive muscular fatigue. Not jogging, not walking. That's not aggressive. It's barely muscular fatigue. It must be aggressive in nature to generate a strong enough stimulus. And if you're doing it aggressively, you cannot do it very long, and you cannot do it very often. The best example I like to make is think of how long you could walk for. Hours. Now think of how long you could sprint for. Minutes, maybe seconds. Yeah. And we would all agree that sprinting is probably more effective in terms of getting you in shape than walking is. What is the difference between the two? It's intensity of muscular effort. So, a high intensity resistance training protocol, it's pretty much a wind sprint for your entire body. It's a sprinting version of exercise.
Now, for the guys who are new to this kind of training, they've never seen Body by Science. They haven't seen, we have a lot of speeches, not just from McGuff at 21 Convention, but Skylar Tanner, Bill DeSimone, Dr. Ellington Darden, Jim Flanagan, Drew Bay. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. A lot of guys in the HIIT community even encouraged me at some points to do a HIIT conference for the HIIT community. And I remember actually ended up doing that. I think there's already a few that occur, and I haven't seen a need for it to a super intense degree. And I'm busy with my own vision for what I do with 21. But I love the HIIT community. I love seeing it. But there's a lot of guys who really don't have a picture in their head right now for what you're talking about, like what it's going to look like. Mm-hmm. So like what is a basic illustration of a workout that you think is good for everyone? Just as a starting point, like Body by Science, Big Five, like talk to me about what the basic painting of that is for someone.
Well, first of all, the key component to a high intensity training session is bringing each major muscle group to what's referred to as momentary muscular failure. This is the point where in good form, you cannot lift the weight for another repetition. So you'll be lifting and lowering the weight very slowly. You want to keep a very slow cadence in order to keep the muscles under tension, which is going to accelerate the amount of fatigue in the muscles and protect your joints. So momentary muscle failure is when you, in good form, go to attempt another repetition and you cannot lift the weight no matter what. This means you have completely recruited and fatigued all available muscle fibers and motor units, and this is the stimulus that sets in motion the machinery the biochemical machinery to make your muscles stronger and bigger and all the systems which support them. So when you're lifting to momentary muscular failure, research suggests very clearly that only one set's required. Additional sets are just going to retrace muscle groups and not promote any additional stimulus. So one set to failure is all you're going to need. And you want to hit every major muscle group. So very basic movements that do not require skill are the best approach. because if you reduce the skill component, so say for instance you do a squat versus a leg press. A squat's a very effective exercise, but there are plenty of moving parts to it that you have to pay attention to in order to perform it correctly. So the way I see it is, why not take out all that confusion, all the skill associated with the exercise, stick to a machine so you can focus on what actually generates the stimulus, which is muscle fatigue. So that's why in my studios I use all machines, and we do basic multi-joint, multi-muscle movements. So like Body by Science suggests.
Haven't you heard the news that barbells are magic and machines are for losers and effeminate men? Like,
yeah, I did a video on Instagram about that the other day, and you can't argue with what I said. So the machine is an improved barbell. It is a barbell that made up for the inadequacies of the original barbell. So there are changes in strength curves throughout a particular range of motion. So good machines are designed to change the resistance curve to match the strength curve. Like for instance, if you're doing a curl, say I'm flat right here, your arm is much weaker here. It's about the strongest at 90 degrees of flexion, and then it drops off again once it passes 90 degrees of elbow flexion. So the amount of strength or the amount of force your muscle can produce changes throughout the range. So if the resistance is linear and it provides the same amount of resistance throughout, you're going to end up reaching what I call like fake muscular failure because the machine isn't properly designed. The Nautilus equipment, MedX, that I use, it will make the resistance lighter at the bottom, heavier towards the position where your muscles are the strongest, and then drop it off again in order to create a much more effective level of muscle fatigue and reach true muscular failure. So
I like the way you put that. It's like a fake failure because you're hitting, and HIIT they would call that a mechanical sticking point, right?
Right.
You're hitting a machine or basically a problem with the tool, the barbell or the dumbbell.
And that's the problem with barbells and dumbbells, is that they have sticking points because they can't accommodate the resistance curve or the strength curve of particular ranges of motion. So machines are just a smarter way to train. And this is the example I like to make. I mean, we can go from our home to the mall several different ways. We could fucking roller skates, a skateboard, a horse and buggy, a bicycle. Machines are the automobile. Barbells are the roller skates. Yes, it's a means of transportation, but it's going to take you a lot longer. It's more dangerous and it's less effective. We're using the automobile and we're using a private jet when we use MedX. If we're using Nautilus, we're using a Bentley, but we're using a private jet when we use MedX. It's a much more efficient, effective, safe tool for, in this case, getting to A to B, or in this case, achieving deep muscle fatigue.
Here's a more advanced question that I think only the HIIT nerds would understand, but there'll be a few watching, I think. Have you ever used or tried out motorized selectorized machine? Well, not selectorized at that point, but motorized machines. There's a couple from ArxFit on me or ArxFit used to have years ago. They still do. There's another company too that made MedX looking machines, but they were actually motorized, which changes a lot. So have you experienced those?
No, I haven't. I would like to, because I feel like it would be brutal. So that's where it's dictating where the weight's moving. You're just pushing against it as it moves, right?
Yeah, and the idea, exactly. And the idea is that you're creating a perfect strength curve because the user is creating, basically it's customized. It's the same concept that Nautilus and MedX have used, that Arthur Jones pioneered, but by adding a motor to it and fixing the speed, either by a trainer or pre-selected speed, you're creating, in theory, a perfect strength curve.
Mm-hmm.
Now, some of the super slow guys at Ken Hutchins they've had mixed feelings about this, but Drew Bay is actually the one who got me into it. And introduced me to the founder of ArxFit, years ago and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think they're a great idea, but here's the thing. At the end of a training career, if one individual is using motorized equipment and one's using traditional Nautilus equipment, the outcome is going to be the fucking same. So it's not like if you're using the motorized equipment, you're going to turn into, Casey V8 or Arnold Schwarzenegger, and if you use the Nautilus, you're not. It might be a little more efficient. Sounds cool, but for the cost to have one of those or to use one, it's not worth it. It's
the cost is astronomical.
Yeah, I can't imagine the cost. I'd love to try one, but would I ever put them in my studio? Hell no. So first of all, to teach someone to push as hard as they could against that is going to be tough. I could barely get them to do it now on a regular machine, and it would just be not very cost effective. Sounds cool though.
Yeah, it's a lot. They're a lot of fun, especially if you're in a hit and you appreciate strength curves and the technology and the effort. Because I mean, it's such a different way of thinking versus like going to your local gym and no one gives a fuck about any of this stuff and they're just throwing weights around. It's the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Because there are some men you can go to fitness shows and expos, and you'll see some of these things around, and a lot of times they're over expensive and stuff like that. But anyway, you mentioned Casey Viator and someone else a minute ago. So these are old bodybuilders. So I think anyone watching the show right now should actually go to your Instagram. There'll be a link in the description. And they should look at your physique. Like, you have a really impressive physique. Like, you're standing next to Elliot Hulse at the event, and you're bigger than Elliot Hulse.
I know. A lot of people made comments about that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Elliot Hulse, he's like, when I saw Elliot Hulse for the first time, I'm like, damn, that dude's a fucking monster. Like, he looked huge. And then I put a picture of me next to him, like, wait, maybe I'm also big. Like, how you don't know, you don't really feel big a lot of times. We have body dysmorphia a lot of the times. When I saw that picture, I was like, all right.
Elliot's been too, though. He's been fasting for a while now. Like, he was bigger when he was training for it. He was bigger a couple years ago. He's last year and even this year he's been really into fasting. I think, like, really intense fasting.
Well, me and Elliot ate a cheeseburger at 3 a.m, so I don't think he was fasting that night.
Okay, looks like that ended. Yeah, I met him, dude. He was on like a 20-day fast when I met him last year for the first time. Or some shit. Yeah, like super hardcore shit. No, we're not talking like a day or two. We're talking like weeks.
Yeah, I remember seeing pictures of him when he leaned way down to like 170 or 175. He was all ripped.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's over 200 now, I'm sure.
So here's my question, though. My question is, you're training, you have a great physique and you train this way, but that is uncommon. And, so I guess my question is, there are bodybuilders today who are much bigger than you, and they're on drugs and all that ton of shit, but, all kinds of bodybuilders that train differently from you, and they're much, much bigger. Why shouldn't I listen to them? I mean, if they're bigger than you, shouldn't I just listen to the biggest guy I can find? Like, go on YouTube and type, strong man to see. I mean, isn't that a logical way of thinking? Like, who has the best results? Isn't that the way you should train? Just copycat what they do?
Well, a lot of people completely disregard genetic predispositions for this, and they disregard the huge amount of steroids that they're taking. So the thing is, when it comes to training, I would rank genetic predispositions to the number one most important thing that is going to dictate your results from training. And a lot of these people, I don't know if you've ever noticed, but if you ever talk to all these people, they're all doing completely different workouts.
Yeah.
So if they all, if each one of them figured out the magic workout for achieving that ridiculous physique, why are they all doing something different? And the fact of the matter is, they will achieve that physique no matter what they do. I always say they could throw rocks at a brick wall. They'd probably still achieve that physique. It's not a matter of what they're doing. It's a matter of their genetic predispositions. We've nailed down, or science has nailed down, a bunch of genes that, pretty much are good indicators of your response to exercise. Personally, I've always been muscular. I was thinner, in middle school, early high school, but always had nice muscle shape. You could see like the length of the muscle bellies, the width of an individual's shoulders. Those are two indications. The thickness of their bones. There's plenty of things you can look at.
Pretty big. You probably heard of myostatin.
Myostatin, yeah, the amount of myostatin you have circulating. I'm not sure if there's really a way to measure that, but here's the thing: if you lifted a weight and got big quick, you don't have much myostatin. That's pretty much what it comes down to. But the professional bodybuilders are making everything misleading because no matter what they do, they're going to get a good physique. And
the reason for that is muscle plasticity or responsiveness, or can you elaborate on that?
It's mostly, there's a couple of genetics that play a role in that. It could be muscle fiber type distribution is a huge part too. So people who have a higher distribution of fast twitch muscle fibers compared to slower twitch muscle fibers or motor units, they're going to be more susceptible to growing larger muscles because the fast twitch motor unit is a thicker motor unit and is more susceptible to growth. So if you have more fast twitch muscle fibers, you're going to grow more. There have been links to certain kinds of myokines and the expression of these particular myokines, like the interleukin myokines, muscle belly length. Let's see.
Your circulating level of testosterone. I mean, some guys are just different than others.
So I've read a study that shows responsiveness to exercise and testosterone was all over the board. So,
Really?
yeah. So, I mean, some of the people who had, on the low end of testosterone and had great response. And then there's some people who are on the high end and had great response. From that one study, it seemed that it didn't really make too much of a difference. But we know that exogenous testosterone, like steroids, definitely helps because, I mean, you're bumping it up to like 3,000 nanograms per deciliter. Obviously, that's going to help. But testosterone might have an effect, but not
It's more
as much as
complicated. It sounds
not
like it's
as
more
much as those
complicated than people
others.
think.
Yeah, it's really tough to see if you have good genetics. Like, other than, have you always been pretty muscular? And if you lifted, you responded quickly. Those are pretty easy indications that you have good genetics. I mean, we're not going to go through testing to see how much myostatin you have, but yeah, basically for those, and same with the bodybuilders, it comes easy to them. People tend to gravitate towards activities that they have an advantage in or ones that are easy for them. So muscular people gravitate towards bodybuilding. I gravitated towards fitness modeling because of just the way I looked. Tall people towards basketball.
I haven't seen, Arnold Schwarzenegger never struck me as a swimmer,
Right.
I mean, maybe other things he could do in life, be a strongman. He was obviously a bodybuilder, an actor, but, being a swimmer or a marathon runner just didn't really seem like his thing,
And we've got to remember that having a lean, muscular body is very rare. We tend to value things that are rare, that we don't see very often. So marketing knows this. That's why they use these bodies to lure you into buying their shit. And I know when you go onto Instagram, you see a gazillion ripped bodies. But if you compare how many of those bodies you see to the 7.5 billion people on the planet, the percentage is actually extremely small. And, a lot of people will go to the gym and they'll see all these big people in the gym and they'll make the assumption, oh, well, they're all big because they go to the gym. Well, not necessarily. They go to the gym so frequently because they feel good when they're there because they're big, because they have a sense of belonging there. So the gym lures in people with good genetics for bodybuilding, just like basketball lures in tall people. Playing basketball doesn't make you tall. Yeah. And going to the gym doesn't necessarily turn you into a bodybuilder. Most people will not. But the good thing about this protocol is that even these people who look great are spending 10 times more time in the gym than I am. So I'm spending 30 minutes a week training, and I look comparable to them. So that raises the question that is all that training week required, and what is the major role affecting the response to exercise if it's not time? Because it clearly isn't, because I wouldn't look the way I do. So that's what I like throwing sand in the gears with all this kind of stuff, because it gets people thinking, gets their head spinning. And, if they want to debate on it, I'll just chew them apart. I mean, I try to troll as much as I can, but.
Well, let's do something a little more positive here. Who are some famous bodybuilders that have subscribed to high intensity training? Not just tried it. Like Arnold Schwarzenegger, for example, he was in Central Florida many decades ago, training here with some other guys who were famous back then with Arthur Jones, the original Nautilus equipment. There's pictures of this, and people have written on it. But there are some other guys, maybe like Mike Menser and a few others you can bring up, that were famous in their day, and even to an extent now, that still train this way. Can you talk to me about a few names that people might know?
One most people recognize if they're in the bodybuilding community is Dorian Yates. Dorian Yates was actually trained a few times, not consistently, by Mike Menser, and Dorian Yates won 6 Mr. Olympias, and he was, he raised the bar for bodybuilding because he came in at about 290 to 300 pounds with 3-4% body fat. He changed the game, and he was doing a fraction of the volume that most people were doing. I think he was training 3 or 4 days a week, very short, really intense workouts. Then there's Mike Menser. Casey Viator was the youngest person to win the Mr. Universe. I think he was 19 years old. Who else there? We got Boyer Coe. Boyer Coe was one of them. But again, think about it this way. There aren't too many bodybuilders that do this. Like the Arnold Schwarzenegger example, for instance, is he quit when he came down to Central Florida. It was too hard for him. He went home. And he pissed Arthur Jones off, from what I hear, because he was a bitch. So, he took pride in being in the gym for 6 hours a day. And think about it. If you could tolerate being in the gym for 6 hours a day, you're not really doing anything. So a lot of bodybuilders too, I explain this to a lot of my clients. The reason they spend so much time in the gym is because that's, especially professionals, that's their job. That's them checking into going to the office every day. They create these ridiculous split routines just for an excuse to go there every day because they need to feel like they're doing something. When the reality is they could probably go twice a week, but then what are they going to do for all their other time? You know what I mean? I feel like a lot of them find excuses to just go more. And a lot of people, it's a social outlet for them. So that's a lot of the reason they want to go every day too. Yeah. But, I live in a gym, so I don't want to do that.
Yeah. It almost seems like, it's definitely not perfect for reasons I agree with you on. I think, working out and training should be much more of a clinical kind of experience than this like gym bro kind of throwing shit around. But at the same time, men today have lost so many masculine gathering spots for kind of watering holes. There are no more, the barbershop thing's all gone. That's like an ancient history to us now. Cigar shops still exist, but they're not as popular. Bowling alley stuff's all gone. It's like, where do men gather? Other than at like 21 convention, it's like, yeah, I'm just thinking about it on the fly, but I wonder if that is a big reason that gyms have become this kind of social club experience. Because where else do you go if you're a man? I mean, there's chicks there too, but
there are some gyms, kind of like the gym I grew up in Central New York was kind of a grungy gym. It was an old mill. And it was definitely like the guy hangout. But then if you go to like a Planet Fitness or a Crunch, it's mostly douchebags there to look at girls. Usually is what it is. And the girls are there.
One of the worst, right?
And the girls are there for the same. The girls are there for validation. They just want people looking at them, and it's because otherwise, why would they want to go so bad? Especially like these fit chicks, like. Especially when coronavirus hit, they're like, "Oh my God, 2 weeks was out the gym. I'm going to lose my mind." And it's like, yeah, because you're not getting the validation you're used to. It's got nothing to do with working out. But for men, you're probably right. I know there's a gym in my area that it's kind of like a power lifters gym. I mean, there wouldn't really be many girls there, but it's definitely a place where men go. They spend lots of time. They blast heavy metal, and I don't doubt them for wanting to go there. But it's probably that's a good point you brought up. I probably agree with you.
You mentioned kind of a grunge gym too, and that's how now I've obviously trained like you for a long time now. But growing up in high school, that was my first experience with training. It was working out in a zero air conditioning in Southwest Florida, no air conditioning.
Jesus Christ,
gym, all rusty shit. It was under a high school, stadium kind of thing. It's not like a major NFL stadium, but we had a real stadium for our high school. And some of the equipment was decent. The football team had a lot of money because we won a lot of games, honestly. So the more games we won, the more fucking money the team would get every year. But it was still, a lot of it was rusty and sweaty and hot and old and like all this shit. But it was a good experience from a masculinity perspective, and I really appreciate that time in my life. And it was honestly strength training focused. We would go do stuff for football, and I have disagreements with that now from a hip perspective. Too much wishful thinking, let's call it, between lifting weights and then, training in a certain way. You can explain this better than me, but it was a very positive experience though from a masculinity perspective, and I'll never forget it. And that honestly gave me the experience and the interest in lifting long term, finding body by science, and getting back into that more intensely.
Yeah, I know. I wish we had. They've turned all these gyms into basically nightclubs now. They're terrible. Yeah. They're disgusting. They're all clean and fancy. Like the one I grew up in smelled like mold. It was all old Nautilus equipment with chains and dust and dirt. Like you left with grease on you. Like that's, I wish we could bring that back. But yeah, it is a very good, way to get in a masculine environment. Thankfully they're still there, but. Again, everything's pushing to like the pussification of the country, and now like all these gyms are like color coordinated and they have dance music. It's just disgusting.
What do they call it? The lunk alarm they got at Planet
Fitness?
The
fucking lunk alarm. Yeah.
That
my God.
Yeah.
And all the new gyms now are just like replications of Planet Fitness without the lunk alarm. Really.
Yeah. Well, let's shift gears to though. I want to get into some mythology around lifting weights, some myths, and some bullshit that the average person believes. And that has no basis like in science or very little connection to reality, let's call it. Wishful thinking, I've heard it called this and that. So hot take, talk to me about explosive training. Don't you have to lift explosively to get strong and big and throw weights around as hard as you can? Otherwise, you're being a pussy. Isn't that important?
No. So, in order to become more explosive in nature, you need to become stronger. So, think about if I had a weight here. Think about if holding a 50-pound weight and trying to curl it. It moves relatively slow, right? Hold a 10-pound weight and try to curl it. Fast. So, what if you could get strong enough to where you can move a 50-pound weight quicker? I mean, that's obviously it's an increase in strength, which allows you to move that weight quicker. Explosiveness is simply strength applied to a skill. So what you want to do is you want to recruit and fatigue fast twitch motor units. And physiology says that we could do this by training actually very slowly. If you train to the point of momentary muscle failure, you are going to recruit, fatigue, and in turn strengthen fast twitch motor units. These are the fibers that are responsible for generating a high amount of contractile force. These are the motor units responsible, or the ones you recruit when you do something explosive. It's going to recruit the thickest, strongest muscle fibers in order to create the most force in order to propel your body through space. So if you want to become more explosive, you want to become stronger overall by stimulating fast twitch motor units. Lifting quick is a way to stimulate them, but it is an inefficient, ineffective, and dangerous way to do it. Like I said, you can lift and lower very slowly. As long as you're going to the point where you hit momentary muscle failure and you deeply fatigue the muscle, you're going to get stronger, you're going to stimulate fast twitch motor units, and you're going to become more explosive. And another thing, explosiveness is so genetic too. It's, it's got a lot to do with, kind of the biochemical things happening within the muscle cell itself and the nerve that innervates the motor unit. There's a lot of things going on. The thickness of the nerve that innervates the motor unit. There's a lot of things going on there that are genetically predetermined and untrainable. So sure, you can make, if you get a little stronger, be a little more explosive, but it's not like you're going to take some nitwit who has no sort of athletic ability and then, turn him into Reggie Bush just by making him stronger. I mean, that's not going to happen. You can improve upon it a little bit. But when it comes to sports, the most important part is going to be improving your skill. The strength training and the strength and conditioning should be looked at as more of an injury prevention protocol rather than a performance enhancement protocol. Because it doesn't matter how strong and fast you are. If you're injured and off the field, you're not performing very well, are you?
So this is what I was getting at a minute ago, but you're articulating it more eloquently. It's in sports training, high school and college, and even beyond that in athletes. They want to, the dominant cultural narrative for it, the intellectual narrative, is to mix and match and cross, contaminate skill and strength. They always want to combine these things, right, as much as they can. And high intensity training and trainers like you and Drew Bay and McGuff, everyone, it's the opposite. You separate these things, like you're saying here now, for injury prevention and protection, things like that, which then more mass and more muscle will help you perform skills better. But they're different things, and they're trained differently in high intensity training perspective.
It will help you perform skills better, but not nearly as much as if you just honed in on the skill itself. So
without mixing in lifting weights and throwing shit around.
Right. They should be completely separated. I believe that strength and conditioning should be done pretty much only on the off season, because during the season you're working so hard and you're so fatigued and so run down. Adding strength and conditioning into it is probably going to, push you in the other direction. You're going to become more under recovered, more susceptible to injury. And, it's just counterproductive for the most part. The strength and conditioning in college sports, professional sports has been so exaggerated. Its importance has been so exaggerated. And a lot of the reason, like with, college players doing all this different strength conditioning, agility, bullshit, whatever, most of it is just to keep them busy, because you got like an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, athlete going to college. He's going to party and go crazy. They need to keep them busy to keep them out of trouble, to keep them away from that. That's why most of the time, that's why they have these in-depth training protocols for them. They likely know that they're bullshit, but they need to keep them going so that way they keep them fatigued, they keep them occupied so they don't get themselves in trouble, and then they can't play for them. They're essentially glorified babysitters. So,
Yeah,
but a lot of people look
this
at
is
them.
important. No one wants to admit that, I think, but
They
I think
are. They're babysitters. I mean, you take some idiot kid who's good at something. He's getting treated like a king. He's going to go fucking berserk. So they need to try to keep him in check. They need to keep him under control because they need him. If he doesn't play, the school doesn't make money. They're protecting their investment essentially by keeping these athletes out of trouble, and that's why they have them training every day and beating the crap out of them. It's they're probably aware of current motor learning research and exercise physiology. It's worth it to them to just wear this guy out so he can't do anything stupid. But then people look at these athletes and they're like, oh, what do they do? How did they, he plays for Alabama. Let's see what his workout is. It's got nothing to do with his workout. It's got to do with his parents. It's got to do with his genetics. He's just genetically superior than a lot of people.
It is a massive cognitive error that you're
It
on
is.
here. That when people do it, they're like, "Oh, what does that guy do?" It's like I remember back in the 2000s, it was big then, and even to an extent in the 2010s. The 300 workout, the 300 movie. What do the 300 guys do? Right? What do they do? What do they do? It's like
Photoshop.
Like, number one, it's a lot of Photoshop. It's movie magic, a lot of it. But even beyond that, you're just trying to. It's like people they want to endlessly copycat whatever looks shiny. Like it's literally not even what looks necessarily good. It really is more. It's more of a thin. The veneer is even thinner than that. It's like whatever's shiny, whatever has sweat on it in a movie, right? Like that's what I want to do. What did that guy do? And then they just fucking go through the same rotation of bullshit every 6 months. New bullshit.
They're stupid and lazy. I mean, it's just like nobody wants to think for themselves. They just tell me what to do. That's how people are these days. So if they have this thing come out, they're going to try it. And that's the thing about exercise and why the industry is so successful, because people will try absolutely everything. They'll try anything. And they just keep them coming back for more. And they come out with new bullshit, new ab exercises, new ab machines every 3 to 6 months. And people keep buying them.
Yeah, it is amazing. I think Tony Horton and P90X are one of the best examples of that. They just came out with DVD set after DVD set after DVD set, the same mix match mashed up bullshit, and people kept buying it and like doing it, and it's like fuck.
But dude. Now you see people, you see people on like Instagram and YouTube doing shit just like that. They're making things up, and that's another problem too. It's that whether it's for validation or revenue, people are coming out with content consistently. They want content because they want followers and likes. So they're sitting around just trying to make dumb shit up just to get people to watch them. They're not providing any useful information. Yeah. And of course, when you take this like InstaThought with the butt implants and you have her doing some stupid squat, all the girls with shitty genetics want to look like her, are going to try her stupid squat workout. She charges $6 for it, and boom, you got a business. And again, it's muddying the waters.
Jay, it's been my theory for a couple of years now, and I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. But I think a lot of especially the more professional, the more, let's call them motivated fitness entrepreneurs that are really, selling these courses that they just make up out of thin air. I think what they're actually doing is trying to study what the average person believes about fitness. They're trying to study like what bullshit they believe specifically. What are the specific issues that they have completely wrong? And they create the programs based on that because that's what sells. Wow, people want to be told what they already believe. They want to be sold. They want to like have their bullshit reaffirmed, but then twisted just a little bit. Like, oh, I had it almost right, but not quite, and that guy gets it.
Yeah, like the ab workout, right?
Yeah.
Like they'll come out with a new ab workout all the time when it is physiologically impossible to reduce fat tissue on your midsection by working your abs. It's anybody
can you
who
that again? Can you comment on spot fat reduction? We'll call it.
Spot fat reduction is a physiological impossibility. You cannot remove the fat tissue covering a particular muscle group by working that muscle group. That's not how your fucking body works. Like doing sit-ups do not give you abs. You will strengthen your midsection muscles, your rectus abdominis and your lumbar extensors, but it will not have any, zero effect on the tissue outside of them, on the fat tissue outside of them. If you want visible abs, you need to reduce the amount of calories you're eating each day and being below your basal metabolic rate each day for a period of usually several months in order to reduce the amount of fat tissue your body is carrying to the point where your abs are visible and
But
displayed.
Jay,
And
I want a juicy butt now, and I want tight abs now. You're telling me 6 months? That's
if
bullshit.
you're a girl and you want a juicy butt and you don't have one, too bad. You're never going to get one. Like, if you have a flat ass, find something else to do because you don't have those genetics. Like, you can't. And again, like most of these Instagram thoughts, they have butt implants, like, or it's Photoshop. But yeah, the whole thing is like, you know, I want a big butt. It's like, well, it's the same thing like a guy with big shoulders. Like, I want big shoulders. Like, you can't change the width of your, you know.
Let's give some people some hope here. So what you are, it's hysterical what you're saying, because I know you're right. But on the positive side, I think I'll just throw this out there, and if you agree, elaborate on it. But what you should do is take the genetics you have and maximize their expression over a lifetime. And whatever those genetics are, that's just what you have, unless and until we have super advanced science to change that, which we're still decades out from having, even if ever. So
myostatin inhibition, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Like short of like literal sci-fi Gattaca Blade Runner shit, you're just born a certain way, and what you need to do is, you know, respect your genetics, respect your evolutionary history, and max that out. That's always been my understanding of high intensity training. You have the genetics you have, do the best you can, be patient, and work hard. Is that? And
yeah. Well, my point is not saying that if you work out, you're going to look like, don't bother working out because you're going to look like shit no matter what. That's not my point. My point is, don't use an Instagram model or a bodybuilder as a reference point, because your chances of getting to that level is almost zero unless you're already there. The realistic expectations from a workout or an exercise regimen has been really skewed because of what we see. Most people, most women, most men, most women can be, you know, between 18 and 22% body fat, which is attractive. Most men can be around 10% body fat with visible abs and nice muscles, but you may not be 225 with 8% body fat. You might be more along the lines of 165 to 175 with 8% body fat. So it's not that you can't get in good shape. It's just that most people's idea of being in good shape is generally unattainable by most people, the huge percentage of the populations.
I think a way to encapsulate what you're saying is that their expectations are exaggerated, not only to the point of absurdity, but absurdity with an unlimited data pool. Instagram is the perfect data pool for that. You see an unlimited, even if it's only a small percentage of the population, if you know enough, is you're flooded with the stuff. The actual posts, the stories, the ads people make that are trying to sell you shit. It's nothing but like ridiculously, not nothing, but it's a lot of just ridiculously, you know, people with really good phenotypic and genotype expressions, right? They're just at the peak of, like, I mean, you're one of them. Like, you have an incredible physique. Guys should really look at your Instagram. Like, you're built as shit, like brick shit house.
Yeah, Jay Vincent. Yeah, a lot of I mean, you scroll through Instagram. I do it all the time. I do it like when people ask me like, "Oh, what's your type when it comes to women?" I click the fucking magnifying glass and I scroll down, and you see 100 ridiculously attractive women. And the thing is, that's why they're there, though. It's not that there are this many women with perfect bodies on the planet. It's that there's a misconception that there are tons of them out there. No, it's that the ones that are out there are right here. And that's the misconception.
They're like over visible, basically.
Yeah, because they funnel all the beautiful bodies into that, because that, it works for Instagram's analytics. So, I mean, and that's giving people a skewed outlook of what an attainable physique looks like. And, most people can have a very nice physique, but like I said, will it look like mine? Probably not. Like, people ask me, like, if I do anything special. It's like I barely do anything. I eat ice cream every single night. I do whatever the hell I want. I seriously fucking do. Go to my Instagram story. I have 6 cartons of ice cream in my freezer. And that's because my genetics, I just don't store fat, and I build muscle very easily. And it's people like me which gravitate towards fitness modeling or gravitate towards Instagram modeling, if you could call it that. And they use people like me to advertise their shit. Because when you're a model, you do not know when you're going to book a job. My agent will call me 1 week, 2 weeks in advance and say, "Hey, Under Armour wants you April 5th, you know, that's it. We're going to send you your flight information or whatever. If you are not constantly in shape, you're done. Your career is over. You can't get in shape in 2 weeks and show up. If you show up out of shape, you're done. So that's why they choose, you know, fitness modeling chooses people who stay in shape no matter what all year. So that way, and that's why I did so well, because I was always in shape. So every time they called me 1-2 weeks in advance, I was ready to go because my physique didn't change. And that's the misconception people have, that, you know, they think, you know, fitness models are working so hard to maintain their physique. Myself and the other people I met in my agency, no, we just do whatever the hell we want.
Yeah, man, that's hysterical.
Yeah, it's the truth, man.
Yeah. I'm nowhere near your genetic capacity, but I grew up a fat kid, and I changed that in my late teens, and I've never been fat again since. And I eat a lot of stuff that would surprise people, ice cream and stuff. And people over at my house, you know, or a roommate, you know, they would see this ridiculous shit I ate, and I just don't, because of, I think, a couple other dietary things I do, the other 99% of how I eat, I just don't get fat. On top of lifting weights consistently for years now, it's enough to keep me lean. I'm nothing like super lean, but I've had DEXA scans. I'm usually between 14-15%.
That's good.
Which, yeah, it's pretty good. Like, it's not 10%, but I
Well,
think
for not, you know, killing yourself. I mean, you know, it's a lot of times to, you know, run yourself into the ground for the sake of being single digit body fat just isn't worth it. Like, nobody gives a shit. But also, if you've trained your body intensely for several years, your insulin sensitivity is through the roof. You're going to be far less likely to store body fat, and that's part of the reason too.
Talk to me about that. So let's say a guy does not have, honestly, like, super great genetic potential, but it's like, let's say decent. What are the other benefits of him strength training over time, over the many years of his life? And let's say he's in his late 20s. What can he look forward to that's not so obvious? Insulin sensitivity is a benefit that a lot of people don't even understand. Look it up. It's useful. It's helpful. What are some other benefits though that strength training helps men with?
Well, just to touch briefly on insulin sensitivity, this is your muscle cell's ability to store glycogen. So a lot of the times when people don't exercise and they eat like shit, the amount of insulin receptors on your muscle cells downregulate because the muscle cells are full, because you're not emptying the muscles of glycogen. So in
Use
order
it or
to
lose it.
Right. So in order to, you know, I mean, the glucose you eat has to go somewhere. If the muscle cells are full, they're going to drop insulin receptors off because it can't take any more in, and the glucose has to go somewhere through the food you eat. So where's it go? It goes to fat. So the sensitivity, the insulin sensitivity on your fat cell improves. So your fat gains more energy or stores more energy more easily, and the fat or the muscle cell insulin sensitivity downregulates. So you put your body in a position where it's going to store fat and not store glucose in the muscle. Now, if you're training really, really hard, you are emptying the muscles of that glucose in order to fuel the workout and fuel the muscle contractions. When you drain the glucose out of your muscle cells, you're going to restore insulin sensitivity again, because the muscle cells are going to want that glucose back in case it needs to do a heavy contraction again. And then you're going to reduce the insulin sensitivity on the fat cells. So basically, you're going from a fat storing body to a fat burning and glucose storing in the muscle type of scenario. So that has tremendous long-term effects. You're going to be far less likely to get diabetes or any sort of metabolic condition. You know, most of heart disease, most of people's cause of death is due to some sort of metabolic condition. It's like heart disease and diabetes. Also, it's been proven that the stronger you are, the longer you live. They have associated associated lifespan with strength. So the stronger you are, the longer you live. So you want to be as strong as you can for your entire life, not only to extend your lifespan, but to have a fulfilling life. Because you see one of my studios is near a hair salon, next to a hair salon. And I see these old women. They're not that old. They're like late 70s, but they're coming in with walkers. And it's not because they have, generally, it's really not because they have some condition. It's because they're weak. If your muscles are weak, you can't move your body around. So if you're strength training, and you can strength train throughout your entire life. I have some clients that are over 80 years old, and they're playing like golf 3-4 times a week. Their age is not an excuse for strength training. But if you continue to strength train, if you start now and do it forever, You're going to maintain a better body composition throughout your life, and you're going to live longer, and you're going to have a more mobile, fulfilling life. It's simple. You're stupid not to do it.
Yeah. You know, I in the HIIT community, I think Skylar Tanner was one of the first guys, and I think McGuff 2 years ago. They basically introduced the idea that strength training is the closest thing there will ever be to a magic pill that's free or close to free, and is also close to being a fountain of youth because it has so many benefits to longevity and just maintaining youth over time. And the more years that goes by, yeah.
There was a study done in 2007 by a Russian scientist. He identified 596 genes associated with aging, meaning they look different when you're young compared to when you're old. The genes change your expression based on how old you are. After, I think it was 12 weeks of resistance training, just a traditional weightlifting protocol, 400 of those genes reversed their expression from the old expression back to the young expression, meaning they reverse the aging process in those genes. It literally, not only will it slow down the aging process, it will literally reverse it in some cases. Now, when Doug McGuff talks about the fountain of youth, that literally is the fountain of youth. If you're reversing the expression of 2/3 of the genes associated with aging just by resistance training, that's insane. And that's another reason to just not only, do it when you're old, but start when you're young and continue it for the rest of your life.
What's interesting too is that this is that mentality of valuing strength training for specific genetic and biomarker and longevity purposes. Mm-hmm. That is the opposite of what is mainstream, which is valuing, what's the next magic pill? Literally a pill. What's the next supplement? What's the next extreme diet fad I'm going to go tinker with? It's like, no, you need to fucking lift weights, not overtrain, and get sleep. And if you do that, you're going to be way better than the average person, right?
People are impatient. People are lazy. I had a client. She comes to me kind of infrequently. Who knows why? But she came the last time she came in. She said she had started Coolsculpting. Where you freeze the fat cells, and essentially they shrink.
Some billboards and shit. Yeah,
it's so another client of mine is a plastic surgeon. He does tummy tucks and liposuction. He says it does not work. It's a scam. So she comes in, she's like, oh, I'm still kind of sore because I started Coolsculpting the other day. I'm like, why would you do that? She go, well, she had dieted a little bit. She lost some weight, but she had a lot to go. Yeah. But she wanted to speed the process up and take it into her own hands by paying $3,000 for this scam. And they put her on a payment plan. They're literally charging her interest. That's how desperate some of these people are. So they put her on a payment plan for a $3,000 treatment that doesn't work.
It's not just women either. Men do this shit too.
Because she's like, oh, well, I wanted to get rid of my belly. And I was like, then fucking diet. She's like, well, I wanted to do it faster. Oh.
Yep. Yeah, now, it's like, I want it now.
I know. I just, a lot of times I'm just like, I'm so not like you that I want to shake you or fire you. But like, you want it right now. But, and it's these little gimmicks that keep popping up. And the problem is everybody wants the quick fix in the magic pill. And it's not there. Like, they know it's not there. It's like people are so, who said it? One of the speakers said something along the lines of, be able to deny immediate gratification in the pursuit of something that's arduous. I think it was Elliot who said that. Somebody said that. Yeah, and I wrote it down. I'm like, that's fucking it. You want to intentionally pursue something arduous. For some reason, we live in this society where people avoid anything that's fucking difficult. Like in the winter, I don't wear a jacket on purpose just because the cold bothers me, and I want to pursue something that's arduous. Like find things that are difficult. Find a difficult workout or a difficult diet plan. And a lot of times I explain to my clients, it's like, they always say, well, the hardest part is the diet. It's so hard. It's so hard. I'm like, there are people starving to death in Africa. Are you fucking kidding me? And you're finding it hard not to eat a Twinkie? That's pathetic. I'm like, nut up. Yep. You live in a society that is so luxurious. It's hard not to stuff your face. It makes absolutely no sense to me.
It's sad, man. It's
for capitalism.
It's a question of whether or not America and all Western nations can survive decadence. That's how I put it.
Probably
I've
not.
heard it put. Yeah, yeah. The luxury. It's dangerous. It's very dangerous.
Yeah.
Because it goes well beyond not eating the Twinkie, right? It goes into finance. Like the woman now is going into debt basically to get some bullshit cold therapy or whatever the fuck it's called.
Coolsculpting, something like that.
What's interesting too is there is, I think, use for cold therapy treatments, but that's not one of them.
Like cryotherapy.
Yeah, cryotherapy, ice baths. Like Ellington Darden was a fan of tinkering with these. Like they're not useless. It's just like used in these extremely expensive, retarded ways. It's a scam, like every fucking time.
Yeah, like do you need a $50,000 tube to do a cryotherapy session in to reduce inflammation? When if you just simply cut out refined carbohydrates and trained a couple times a week, it would reduce the inflation more than that would.
Or take a fucking ice bath, like throw a bucket of ice in the tub. Like
yeah, I know, and it's like and that's the thing about the business model I'm in. It's just I wouldn't be able to screw people like that and like feel okay with it. But these sick bastards do it every single day. I really don't know how they do it, honestly. They literally, convinced her, probably manipulated her into a contract. She's not going to be able to get out of it. She's going to pay $3,000 for something that isn't going to work. Blows my mind.
Now let's shift gears a little bit back to some fitness mythology I wanted to still dig into. So we talked about explosive training a little bit. We talked about skill and strength and differences here. Talk to me about cardio, because cardio is like this magic fucking word that everyone uses. No one seems to be able to define, but everyone is supposed to know about it. And it's like this magical wonder pill, right? So talk to me about cardio. What are your thoughts, Jay Vincent, on cardio?
Cardio is a complete myth, honestly. There's no such thing. There is absolutely no such thing as cardio. What is cardio? No, like you said, nobody can define it. What people consider cardio is that steady state, low intensity, locomotive activity. That's all it is. It's locomotive activity. It's movement. So your body doesn't know the difference between lifting a weight, walking up a hill, or pushing your grandmother in a stroller. All it knows is muscular effort. So people are under the impression that this long duration, low intensity muscular effort is somehow going to stimulate better adaptations in your cardiovascular system, like your heart, lungs, and blood vessels. When I explained earlier that if you simply make your muscles stronger and fatigue them deeply, what's going to happen is you're going to stimulate an upregulation in the enzymes within the muscle cell that allow it to take in nutrients and oxygen and dispose of waste more efficiently. When this happens, when you upregulate these enzymes, your heart, lungs, and blood vessels don't have to work as hard to supply the muscle. That's the cardiovascular adaptation right there. It's not that just because your heart is beating, your heart's getting stronger. Sure, you're going to improve a little bit of stroke volume and coronary flow in your heart by pushing it, but most of the adaptation happens at the muscle cell by stressing the muscle cell and upregulating enzymes to make the cardiovascular system work more efficiently. So what cardio is just a really ineffective, inefficient, and usually dangerous way of barely stimulating the muscle tissue, because the more cardio you do, the more efficient your body gets at it, the less of an effect it's going to have. The goal is simply fatigue your muscles and do it as aggressively as possible, and that's going to stimulate adaptations in the cardiovascular system. I barely walk, dude. Like, I won't jog. I won't do, like, I work out. I do one full body workout a week. I was at my doctor 3 weeks ago just for a checkup, and he listens to my lungs, and he goes, wow, your lungs sound great. Are you a runner? I said, no. He goes, well, do you swim or bike? I go, no. So what do you do? I lift weights like once a week for like 30 minutes or so. He goes, oh, cool. Like, dude, why didn't your head explode? Like, you asked me if I was a runner. I told you I barely moved. And that's because, I'm taking, when you're doing a high intensity training session, you want to take minimal rest in between exercises. You want to keep that heart rate elevated. That's going to have a little better cardiovascular benefit. But a lot of the myth associated with cardio comes to fat loss, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people think that you're burning this fat off when you're sitting on the stupid elliptical. So what cardio does do is it allows you to expend calories. So if you want to lose fat tissue, you need to create an environment of what's called a negative energy balance. You need to expend more energy than you input. We can do this two ways. We can input less energy than we require, creating a deficit, creating a negative energy balance, in which case The additional energy required will come from other tissues. And if we're strength training, it will come from predominantly fat tissue, or we can try to burn it off. The problem with burning it off is, one, it doesn't work. Two, it takes a lot of time. Three, you're going to wear out your knees and other joints in the process.
Well, hang on. There's like a fourth issue too. I don't know if you're going to get to it, but I think, in my opinion and in my experience and what I've seen in my lifetime, 32 years, a lot of cardio just stimulates hunger.
That was my fourth point. Exactly. Right. Yeah. It's going to stimulate hunger. And this leads me to an example. A few weeks ago, a client of mine, she had already lost about 90 pounds.
Wow.
Doing what I do. I gave her a diet. She trained twice a week, 90 pounds, took her about 8 months. And she was stagnant. She couldn't lose any more weight. She was at a plateau. She says, well, you know, I'm eating how you told me to, and I'm walking every day. I said, wait a minute. Walking every day? What do you mean? Oh, well, it's a fast walk. I'm doing a fast walk. I said, why? Well, because I want to burn more. Burn more what? I told you to do this. You went and did something else, and you hit a plateau, and you wonder why. What the hell did you hire me for? So she's doing this walking, and I told her not to do it. She stopped the walking, and 2 weeks later, she lost an additional 9 pounds by stopping the walking, because what she was doing without realizing it is stimulating hunger and out eating her calorie deficit. She was eating the calorie surplus.
Yeah,
and of course,
that fast walking, that's like a pseudo kind of jogging almost.
It's bullshit. But like, you know, she said, you know, of course, here's the thing, as a trainer, your clients are going to lie to you. They're going to say they're following your diet, but they're not. So she said, oh, but I'm following the diet exactly. I said, well, you know, that's wrong. And then I found out actually yesterday that she was eating Jell-O on the day she walked. So, you know, she finally admitted it to me after the weight came off. She's like, oh, yeah, I was also eating Jell-O that day. So
I wonder what else she was eating, too. I mean, usually it's
right. I mean, you know, they're not going to admit it to you, but it had a negative effect on her weight loss. So the thing people need to realize is that you're not as much in control of how your body produces results as you think. You're not the driver. You need to stimulate your body. You need to put it in an environment conducive to fat loss, and then you need to be patient. You cannot push the process along any faster. Supplements, extra jogging, Coolsculpting, all this bullshit is going to end up wasting you time and money. And it's all you really have to do is just be patient with it, because this shit does not happen overnight. It takes time. Sometimes, like if you got to lose 100 pounds, you're looking at a year.
Well, not even losing weight, but building muscle. I know Skylar
building
Tanner,
muscle is even slower. Yeah.
One of our speakers, maybe you've heard of him, Skylar Tanner. He's a HIIT trainer over in Austin, and he did a speech related to it, strength training over a lifetime, I think. But it was based on a blog post he had written that was more extensive. And basically, what he showed is he studied some top natural bodybuilders, a lot of them, and basically the conclusion that he came to, him and maybe someone else who was working on with it, I don't remember exactly, it was a while ago. But basically, even top natural bodybuilders, right? Let's assume they're being honest and no testosterone, no HGH and shit. They would gain over a lifetime, an average of like 1 pound of muscle a year. And these guys are like top genetic, like you. Like you're in the top couple percent of the population. For first of all, the kind of physique you're going to have just walking around doing nothing in life. But second of all, the physique you're going to have in response to high intensity training, or any kind of a lift, like, strength training. So even those guys gain 1 pound of muscle over a lifetime per year. One, or even less sometimes, like, 0.8 or whatever. And that's not a lot of muscle.
You could estimate 10 to 20 in a lifetime. 10 to 20 pounds of muscle gain in a lifetime. And people are looking for this in a matter of months. I've been about 205 pounds, and I have not changed in 4 or 5 years. There is a ceiling. You're going to hit the ceiling and just get over it. Like, sure, if I wanted to, be 240, I mean, the difference between my 205 and the 240 that some of the bodybuilders are a tremendous amount of drugs. It's just what it is. It's not that their training's any better, their diet's any better, their genetics any better. It's just they added the drug part to get that massive physique. And unfortunately, that's what people are using as an aiming point. Yeah, the human body.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, as a pushback, are there any supplements you do recommend? Maybe creatine, maybe krill oil or fish oil, maybe branched chain amino acids, anything like that?
branched chain amino acids are trash. As long as you're eating adequate protein, they have no effect because protein is made up of amino acids. So research has shown that the addition of branched chain amino acids to a diet adequate in protein is just expensive piss, basically. I
What about creatine?
recommend fish oils or omega-3s. Creatine, there has been, Drew Bay says that there's research that shows that creatine is effective, especially in older individuals. I don't personally take it. I take no supplements besides like a B vitamin and biotin and stuff like that. Just very basic stuff that I'm probably not getting through diet. But, I do recommend omega-3 for most people because people are very inflamed from the crappy diets. Vitamin D, especially for us up in the Northeast here. But other than that, in terms of muscle building supplements, no. If you're finding it hard to reach your protein requirement, which is going to be about 1 gram of protein per pound of target body weight, or about 0.7 to 0.8 grams of protein per pound of your current body weight. If you're finding it hard to meet that requirement, protein shakes are fine. But if you're adding protein shakes into your diet, don't expect to turn into Hercules like a lot of people do, because they have very minimal effect. Other than that, no, not really.
What are some of the top foods you recommend people to eat? Obviously, diet is a huge question. I don't think we have time to get into too much of that, but some positive foods people should focus on. You mentioned, protein shakes. What about eggs? Anything else? Fish, maybe, things like that.
Anything that occurs naturally in the environment. What I tell people is like, eat what you would find in the woods, because that's what our metabolism evolved to eat, what was in the woods. You're not going to find bread in the woods. So, animal proteins and vegetables. My go-to dinner, and I'm saying, like, I don't really care about food. I'll eat the same thing, breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day, and I'll be fine. Almost every single night, or at least 95% of the time, I have chicken and sweet potatoes. I find sweet potatoes is a very good low glycemic load source of carbohydrate. And then I'll have about 12 to 16 ounces of chicken, like a huge amount of chicken. And I generally do that for dinner. So if you're eating any sort of animal protein, whether it walks, flies, or swims, even bugs, I don't care. Any source of animal protein, number one priority. Number two, some kind of vegetables, green leafy vegetables, help with satiety. And then when you're eating like that, your body composition is going to take care of itself. A lot of people are really afraid of carbs, and that's due to the insulin resistance. But carbs are not bad. Just too much of anything is bad. I mean, if you're insulin resistant, then you're going to be more likely to store fat if you eat a lot of refined carbs. But, you don't have to go no carb. You don't even have to go low carb. You want to go high protein or adequate protein, and then fill in the rest of your calories evenly between, or however you like, between carbs and fat. There's no real secret macronutrient ratio for ultimate body composition. Again, it's going to have mostly to do with your genetics, but the research has shown that maintaining higher protein intake is going to be obviously better for building muscle and better for fat loss due to, they say, satiety effect of it.
Yeah, it also requires, I think, more calories to actually digest, right? Versus carbohydrates and fat, which will
there's a
go down.
Thermic cost of digestion.
Yeah. I really like the way you put that, though. Eat what you'd find in the woods. It's a very simplified way. I'm a huge fan of that. Like basically a paleo diet or paleo direction diet.
Just eat things naturally occur in the environment. I mean, you think about it, the metabolism evolved. We've only been eating this trash for a couple hundred years. We've really only been in like an environment of food surplus since like the Great Depression. Like, it has not been long, not even maybe 100 years. We've been in this environment of ridiculous food abundance, and that's why we're all fat. But even before then, it's just like, think about what, if you were to live in the woods for a month, what would you find? You'd find mostly animal protein, some fruits here and there, and some vegetables here and there. But most of your food's going to come, as omnivores, most of our food's coming from protein.
This is a good comment someone just left from Royal, and I think you'll have some good insight on this. So he said, my physique improved drastically when I cut out all carbs, aka went carnivore, basically. Now, why is that? Assuming he's telling the truth there. Why do you think?
It's a reduction in calories. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, how much animal protein could you eat per day? He was probably eating something around like 2,500 or 3,500 calories. But when you cut the carbs out, you probably cut out 1,500 calories by cutting out the carb sources. It has nothing to do with the carbs. It's just a different way to get to a reduced calorie diet. There's nothing special about the carnivore diet. It's just it avoids all of these calorie dense foods.
That's kind of what I wanted you to get at. Like, people do something like this, and there's a couple ways they could look at it, and they always tend to look at it in the way that fits their bias going in. So they're like, "Oh, carnivore diet's cool. I read this book on the carnivore diet. Let me eat the carnivore. Let me eat all meat." And it's like, actually, you just cut out a bunch of shit from your diet. In the process, you cut out bread, you cut out cupcakes, you cut out fucking, you were sucking down, I don't know, bananas or some shit, whatever. Who knows, right? And now they eat nothing but meat and eggs, and it's like, oh my God, my body changed. It's like,
right, because they're probably only eating 1,500 calories a day, because it's like, it reduces the likelihood of eating more calories. They're sticking to nutrient-dense, calorie-deficient foods rather than calorie-dense, nutrient-deficient foods. Yeah. So, when you take those foods out, and that's why people have seen success with like cutting carbs, well, because you cut out a shitload of calories. That's mostly it. There's nothing special about the carnivore diet. It's kind of like all these little fad diets. People kind of like to have an identity or belong to a group or whatever, but I don't see any benefit in these fad diets. If you reduce your calories and you keep protein intake adequate, everything's going to take care of itself. It's pretty damn simple. It really is.
On that note, talk to me about fat. Is fat, so you've been talking about macronutrients, talking about protein, carbohydrates. Is fat good for you or bad for you?
Well, if you're fat is bad. But
okay.
Fat, it depends on where the fat comes from. Like if you're getting, eggs from grass-fed chickens, then you're going to get a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, which are going to help reduce inflammation, which is going to help you mobilize fat. So fat is very good in keeping inflammation at bay if you're getting it from good sources. Obviously, if your fat's coming from fried foods, that's just going to be additional calories. That's going to likely make you fatter. But fat is not bad.
Now, what is the reason for fried foods, though? Is it dependent on what it's fried in? Say soybean oil versus like coconut oil, or what is?
Yeah, because it's fried in oils that are rich in omega-6 fatty acids, which are inflammatory in nature. So things like olive oil or coconut oil or grass-fed butter are rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which is anti-inflammatory.
And that's a lot different from the garbage you're going to get at Popeye's chicken or whatever.
That's right.
Fucking peanut oil and fuck knows what.
It's the omega-6 fatty acids in our diet, which is really driving inflammation. So that's all the carbs. All of the refined carbs are rich in omega-6 fatty acids. All those seed oils and stuff like that, and they produce inflammation. They're responsible for driving a lot of the disease. A lot of it comes down to an overconsumption of omega-6 fatty acids. And when you drop those out, you add in omega-3 fatty acids to reduce inflammation and counterbalance the omega-6 fatty acids. You're creating a more healthy environment, and a lot of things health-wise will improve with that. But also, if you take an omega-3 supplement, that helps too.
Yeah, it helps offset the overabundance of it.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's start winding down here. You have a course, I believe, at HIT University. I'm familiar with the founder, Simon Shawcross. He's one of our former speakers, alumni from 2012 in London. I was actually around when he got HIT Uni going. He was doing the initial interviews and kind of groundwork for it way back in the day now.
Nice.
So talk to me about your course there that guys can go find. I'll put a link to it as well in the description.
Yeah. So, obviously, this approach and these principles go against the grain of everything. And I know a lot of people are going to have questions for me. I can't get to them all. So me and Simon created a course that you can take. It's a series of, multiple videos and in-depth explanation about all the principles associated with HIT. It's going to answer probably all of your questions and not most of the questions you have about this protocol. And it's also going to give you a couple of examples of workout routines at the end, show you how to perform them. Everything that you could ask me is going to be answered in this course. So if anyone's interested in doing this protocol and adopting these principles into their workout, take that course, go through it. You're going to get a much more in-depth, better review on how to do this. And it's going to really help you ramp up your exercise, or ramp up your workouts. You can really get the most results with minimal time. I explain in there traditional frequencies and the frequencies that people should be using. My once a week might be, is probably a little infrequent for most people starting off. But again, all the questions on like which exercise to do, reps, sets, food, it's all covered in that course. And yeah, if you want to get the most out of it, take that course, man.
Fuck yeah. There'll be a link in the description, guys. And I was just pulling up too a demonstration, or I was showing Hit University, their YouTube channel. The website's different, but I saw some videos from you there. You also have a channel, guys can go find. It's actually just Jay Vincent, and you have a lot of videos there too for free as well. I see the one. With
Yeah,
Simon
that
Crawford
one's
there, too.
yep. That's one of the interviews we did. We were talking about my my experience with HIIT. I'm going to start adding more to the YouTube channel. My Instagram, I've been putting a lot more content on it, answering questions, just very traditional questions like free weights versus machines. The other one I answered the other day was bringing up lagging body parts. Your biceps or shoulders are lagging. Here's how you do it. So my Instagram and the YouTube, I'm going to put a lot more content, pretty much debunking myths and helping provide answers to a lot of the common questions in exercise. Because a lot of the times the answers you're getting to your questions are completely wrong at best, and at worst, probably the opposite of what you should be doing.
Yeah, huge load of bullshit. I realized I should have been showing your you have demonstration videos, obviously, of working out.
Yeah,
like
this workout here, that's an entire start to finish workout, each set to failure. And the great part about that workout is this is when my dog was a puppy. And I got so uncomfortable in the chest press that my dog started jumping on my lap because he thought I was dying. But you can tell the amount of focus I maintain. My dog is jumping on my lap and I'm continuing the set. See?
Yeah, I see.
So that shows the amount of focus required to complete this workout. It's just, you want no distractions. You want to focus on the task at hand, no matter what's going on around you. I mean, this comes from experience, but it shows you how intense this workout actually is, to where I could have a dog jumping on my lap and I didn't even skip a beat.
Yeah. Fuck yeah, man. Well, guys, I recommend you check out his channel, check out his course at Hit University, and appreciate your time today, man. Big time, as well as speaking at the event. Look forward to having you back next year for sure at 21 Summit.
Can't wait, man. That was a blast. My pleasure.
Yeah, man. All right, guys. This has been episode 121 of the Redman Group with Jay Vincent, a high intensity training. Appreciate you guys being patient with the technical issues earlier in the show. I'll see you next Saturday on the show. And Jay, once again, appreciate it. Everyone, check out his links in the description to his Instagram, the course, and his YouTube channel. Peace out. See you guys next week.